So about a week ago, I went over to Arkansas, well, down to Arkansas from where I was, and visited my best friend. And from there, we went to a video store, and I actually picked up Up and Wall-E. And those are two of Disney movies that I really, really appreciate and loved. I've never seen Wall-E before until about last week ago. And so that really got me thinking, what Disney movies, what classic animated Disney movies do I really, really enjoy? And so that's what prompted this genre series video. I really wanted to figure out which of the Disney movies, the animated Disney movies, that I love the most, and what would make my top 10. So I'm reviving the genre series, and here we go with my top 10 Disney animated classics of all time. So let's begin with number 10. Lilo and Stitch. Not Lilo and Stitch 2. Decent movie. It's okay. It's not that great. But anyways, Lilo and Stitch. I have so much memories with this franchise right here. At least with the first one. I remember growing up, this came out right in the middle of my childhood. And so I remember like going to Disney World and actually getting a bunch of badges. I know they used to have collectible badges where you used to, little pens you can put in a pen book. And I always just collected Lilo and Stitch, and I also collected Chip and Dale for some reason. Not Chippendales. I know what that is, but yeah, Chip and Dale, Rescue Rangers. But anyways, back to Lilo and Stitch. So this movie came out right in the middle of my childhood, and I really, really enjoyed it as I was growing up. It's just really about a little girl who meets this monster, this little alien from another, I think it's 626. I can't even remember. It's coming to my head a little bit, but it's a little monster that comes to Earth, and then pretty much this galaxy that's tracking him down. He's a bounty hunter, and he's just a troublemaker, and pretty much Lilo just kind of humanizes Stitch a little bit, and also just really just rescues him a little bit from the chaos that is this movie. And so I really love this movie. It's beautifully set in Hawaii. There's some gorgeous music involved. There's some gorgeous cinematography involved. This is just one of my favorite films from my childhood, and I just like to always remember Lilo and Stitch, and I always have fond memories of this. And so every single time I think of Lilo and Stitch, I always think of a great time. I always think of Disney World, and I always think about collecting those badges. So that's my number 10 pick, is Lilo and Stitch. So for next one, we're going to go way back, a little bit further past Lilo and Stitch era, which is like the height of Disney, when they started off putting out amazing 90s movies. And this first one is Beauty and the Beast from 1991. Now this movie I had on VHS, and it honestly just makes me think of the past, where I used to rewind movies and also just like rewatch them over and over and over again. My parents probably got sick of it. But anyways, Beauty and the Beast, this had a live adaptation earlier this year, and it was a fantastic live adaptation because generally it stayed pretty true to the material of this movie. Now, it goes way, way, way back. So something I really enjoyed about this movie, just about my childhood that I remember, is just constantly remembering various scenes from the movie. I've seen this movie probably about 20 or 30 times. I've seen this movie in French a couple times when I was in high school, actually in my French class. And so I remember throughout my entire life seeing this movie. Earlier this year I rewatched this movie again just to like kind of recap my mind on the newest adaptation of the film. And I thought this was a fantastic, it still, holds up true to today, and I think it really is a tale as old as time, not to get too Disney on you. Alright, my number 8 pick, get out your Kleenexes, it's Toy Story 3. So this is a Disney-Pixar combination, and there might be a couple more Disney Pixars in this lineup that I have here. But Toy Story 3, I actually did not watch this movie until about a year or two after it came out, and everyone was talking about it all the time, constantly. I just remember everyone talking about how they bawled their eyes out. It was a heartbreaking film. It was a perfect ending to this trilogy of the Toy Story films, and honestly, I never really connected too much to Toy Story. I thought it was I love the first Toy Story. Toy Story 2 was okay to me, and yeah, I know I'm going to lose some people on this, but the first two Toy Stories were just as good enough for me. However, Toy Story 3, I think, is a perfect encapsulating ending to this trilogy of movies, and really just we're growing up and you're kind of losing parts of your childhood, and that's what this movie's all about, and that's why it's so heartbreaking to so many people, because most of us grew up with the Toy Story series, and just like myself, and we see this conclusion. Now there's going to be a Toy Story 4. I don't know how I feel about that. I think this is a perfect ending for this movie. And so I really enjoyed this film, and I would definitely recommend checking out Toy Story 3 and check out the first 2 Toy Stories. Alright, moving on to number 7, we have another Disney Pixar combination from my childhood, and that's Monsters, Inc. And when I say childhood, I mean right in the middle of my childhood. Just like Lilo and Stitch was. It came out around the same exact time, kind of. This movie I've seen 100 times about. I have memories of it where I used to be at this after care day camp during school because my parents worked a little bit later, and we always watched this or The Incredibles. And I just remember seeing this 100 times, and I love this movie, and I never got tired of it. I know pretty much every aspect of this film. Mike Sazelsky and Sully as these monsters who are trying to, this world where they capture screams from kids, and it's like that just elevated sense of what monsters are really there for. That creepy thing at night in your closet, under your bed kind of thing, and they're trying to be the most creative way to get scares. That way they can power their world, and I think it's a really cool adaptation of that, like that kind of concept, and just it's a really fun movie, and it's really cute, and I don't use that word too much, so watch it. Definitely watch Monsters, Inc. because it's a great time, and it just has so many good memories, and that's what's going to constantly be throughout this entire genre series video, is I'm going to talk about my memories a lot more, and that's the reason why I love these Disney movies, and why these animated movies mean so much to me. So definitely check out Monsters, Inc. Alright, my number 6 pick is an oldie, but a really good film that I've recently saw and actually recently got. And that is the first Fantasia. It came out in 1940. It's an old film, and it has an amalgam of just really cool classics, and it really introduced Mickey Mouse to a lot of us as well. It really just adds a bunch of classical pieces mixed in with all these cartoons that really connect to the story of the song, and also just pretty much what you would imagine what this song could potentially conjure up. And that's something that's really cool, and that's something that Disney really played on, is this Disney magic. I don't really see classical pieces talked about too much, and it really just, it kind of irks me a little bit, because I really love classical music, and I think that adding a picture to it, albeit Fantasia or Fantasia 2000, the more recent adaptation, really gets kids more interested into these classical pieces and this music and this art form of animation. And I think this is a fantastic movie to watch. I definitely recommend both if you ever get a chance. But there's always the image that comes up to my mind when I was younger, living a little bit further away from here, that of the night on Bald Mountain, and that's where one of the last songs on this film that. It's kind of scary, and it also just reminds me of Halloween, and I just think it's really cool. And Halloween's coming up, so definitely check out Fantasia. Number 5 is Aladdin, and I love this movie. It came out around the same time I was born, and it's a magical film. It's got Robin Williams in it. It's got a fantastic score that is just constantly in my head. I mean, obviously not now, but like I could probably just harken back immediately, a whole new world. I can just start singing that song if I wanted to, and that's something that sticks with a lot of kids, is the songs in Disney movies. And I mean, there's more recent adaptations with Inside Out and Frozen, but these are the ones that I grew up with, and Aladdin is one of those films that really struck with me when I was younger, because I always thought of the underdog kind of a story, and this is the first movie I was really, I think, exposed to when it came to underdog stories, was this pretty much peasant slash kind of thief who pretty much rises to fame, figures out with Genie, trying to figure out how to defeat Jafar, who is the main villain of the film. Definitely check out Aladdin, because I honestly cannot wait for the live adaptation of this. I think it's going to be great. I've heard good things. I've heard mixed reactions about who we're going to cast. Whatever. I want to see Aladdin again. And this is a fantastic and hilarious movie, because Robin Williams is in it, and I love Robin Williams, and him as Genie. I don't know who's going to, honestly take his shoes. Or I guess he doesn't really have, well, he's got Genie shoes, but he's a gem. So definitely check out Aladdin. Let's get down to business to defeat the Huns. I'm pointing to Mushu, not the Huns. Huns aren't on this cover, so I don't know where I'm going with this. But definitely, Mulan is one of those films that really have stuck with me, and obviously the song, I'll Make a Man Out of You, has really stuck with me. Mulan is about this girl, and she's trying to help defeat the Huns pretty much because her family and China is being attacked by the Huns who've crossed the Great Wall. There's some stereotypes in this movie. There's definitely some stereotypes in this movie that have some historical inaccuracies, but whatever. It's a Disney movie. That's it comes with the territory because Disney movies are ripe with that. But regardless, she's pretty much fighting on behalf of the family. She dresses as a man pretty much to fight on behalf of the family because they don't have any. Her father. She takes his father's place instead of her. That way she can go fight to save his life pretty much. And so this is a fantastic kind of movie that just got great songs in it. It's got great action in it, and it really just has a heartfelt kind of tone to it that you kind of care about everyone in this movie. And that's something that I really, really appreciate about Mulan, and also just harkens back to my childhood, which I'll stop harking on about, because there's 3 more movies about my childhood that we're going to come back to. Alright, moving on to number 3 is Hercules. And this movie is another late 90s film, just like Mulan. And it came out around 1997, I want to say. And really just hits on a lot of kind of the classical Greek myths of Hercules. And also just, it kind of harps a little bit on this traditional tale and makes it a little bit more kid-friendly, Disneyfied. Well, regardless, they take some liberties because this is definitely not the traditional Greek route of talking about the mythology of this entire story, because it's definitely, a lot of this is very made up. And one of the more famous sequences from this movie is Hercules' 12 trials that he had to go through, and they just kind of do a montage of it to get through the movie. But it's really about Hades tricking Hercules, who wants to kill Hercules, and Meg, who falls in love with Hercules, who's working on behalf of Hades. And so they're trying to figure out that whole convoluted thing. But there's also Phil, who's Danny DeVito, who's one of my favorite people ever. So this is a very fun movie, regardless of how inaccurate it is and how kind of silly it is. Like I said a little earlier, the 90s had this weird flirtation with just hitting the right note on what made Disney so great. And I honestly think it's lost its luster a little bit recently, in my opinion, for the Disney animated classics. But these movies right here, for some reason, just have something to it. And Hercules is one of those, another classic example of this. Alright, number 2. Controversial number 2 pick. This could be number 1 pick for a lot of people, but it's my number 2. And that is The Lion King. Another Disney 90s movie. Classic movie. If you think of Disney, most people think of this movie. I want to say I think it's probably the most popular Disney movie of all time. We're going to have a lot of adaptation of it very soon. So, The Lion King. We got this classic Scar. We have this classic story of Mufasa, who is Simba's father. That's Simba right there. Who has a brother, Scar, and pretty much we all know the really iconic scene that we all want to, cry about. Well, I don't want to talk about it a little too much, but pretty much he has to become the Lion King, and he has to fight Scar for supremacy of the jungle. And so I just think this movie, and all the spin-offs it has, it's just always been fun. With Timon and Pumbaa, Lion King 1.5, which I don't even want to remember very much, but definitely check out Lion King. It's a classic film. It's got The Circle of Life. It's got so many great songs in it that are iconic, and honestly, the process of making this movie, you need to go watch the behind-the-scenes stuff of this, because it's just iconic, and it floods back some things in my mind. Definitely from my childhood, and I don't remember much from my childhood, so me saying a lot from my childhood is a lot to me. Alright, my number 1 pick is Tarzan. Now, hear me out. I know it beat Lion King, but the reason it beat out Lion King for me is Phil Collins and the iconic soundtrack. I have this very explicit memory. I watched this movie, and I remember all of the ad campaigns for this movie. And I also remember going to McDonald's immediately after this movie with my cousin and my uncle and getting a Happy Meal and getting this Tarzan toy. And I just constantly, I have that memory in the back of my head. And I also, you have that McDonald's taste. I'm sure if you've had McDonald's before, I haven't had McDonald's in a long time. But I do know the taste of their burgers and their fries, and it never fades away. just like Phil Collins in this movie is, because I just remember, this may be more about McDonald's than it is about Tarzan. I don't have really fond memories of McDonald's, just it's there, okay? I got a lot of toys when I was a kid. That's why I was a fat kid. I'm still kind of a fat kid, but I'm getting better. But anyways, back to Tarzan. This movie, I just have a lot of great memories with. Fantastic work done in it. It's got great music. It's got a great story, and it's that traditional Tarzan story of, you know, Tarzan, this beastly man, and this woman. Civilization comes to, like, you know, pretty much like show her, like, her face. It plays a little bit on colonialism a little bit, and I mean obviously the nice sides of it, and also the bad side. There's Clayton, kind of a bad guy in this movie, because, you know, Disney always has to have some kind of bad guy. But this movie has kind of a Lion King feel to it, where pretty much Tarzan is a friend of most of the animals in the jungle. It's just a fantastic film that's connected to a lot of just, you know, bridging worlds of civilizations. And that's something that I always thought that Disney did pretty well, is trying to get people together. And that's pretty much overall, that's how I kind of view Disney, is they personify a lot of these myths that we've had throughout the centuries, throughout the decades. And it kind of portrays it in, you know, a light sense. Obviously, if you're getting older, definitely look more into the source material of a lot of these things, because you're going to get a lot darker. I'm thinking like Grimm's fairy tales and things like that. And obviously, there's a lot more darker material, but like to expose kids early on with a lot of these myths, like Pinocchio, Lion King, what have you. A lot of these movies really just get into the heart of what it means to think human, and to think of the hero myth, the hero and villain myth, and also just to think about our differences a little bit, and also just try to bridge those differences as best as we can, and really just get together and like just enjoy ourselves as human beings. There's always conflict, and Disney tries to obviously Disneyfy it, so I'm making this word up, but pretty much tries to bring it together and, you know, obviously market it down to kids. But I think overall these movies are what the reason we watch these Disney movies is because we want to forget. We want to go to the movies and we want to have a good time. And these movies are for our kids. I think I can't wait when I ever have kids, if I ever have kids in the future, I'm definitely going to be showing them all these movies and explaining how much these mean to me when I was a kid. And that's something that I really appreciate. So I'm really happy to bring back the genre series. I'm going to be doing some more, but I would like your help. Tell me some of your favorite Disney movies down below, but also tell me if I'm going to continue this genre series, what should I tackle next? Remember, I've had other genre series videos, so don't say horror or sci-fi, because I've done that before. So I definitely want to hear your thoughts down below. Give me a like, a comment, share down below, and don't forget to subscribe. And I can't wait to see you next time. I'm not jonesing around.